problem with America. You have to stop telling us on what to do.
Malaysian lawyer Ahmed Abdul Razak confronts Anthony Blinken, the U.S. Secretary of State, that the world is sick of America. Who is Ahmed Abdul Razak? Razak is a respected lawyer and a public figure from Malaysia, someone who's spoken out frequently about issues that many see as the elephants in the room of international politics. And then we have Antony Blinken, the U.S. Secretary of State, a key player in American foreign policy who's frequently on the global stage, asserting America's stance on issues from human rights to security. Now, these two coming head-to-head was always going to be intriguing, but what happened was much more intense than anyone could have predicted. Razak called out the United States in a way that was as direct as it was scathing. So what exactly did he say?
I want to start by arguing that at this particular moment, the world is witnessing that the Western domination is continuously being challenged. Just a couple of weeks ago in Vientiane, in Laos, during the ASEAN summit, the top American diplomat with the Prime Minister of Malaysia, Anwar Ibrahim, and urged Malaysia to distance itself from certain nations, Russia in particular. Prime Minister's response was very resolute. He reminded the diplomat that Malaysia is a sovereign nation, and in no uncertain terms, he made it very clear to him that this is a problem with America. You have to stop telling us on what to do. Moments like these are one of the many that reflects a profound shift in our world. In 2019, Gambia, on behalf of 57 OIC member countries, filed a case before the International Court of Justice against Myanmar for its failure to stop the atrocities towards the Rohingyas. Now, this is Gambia, ladies and gentlemen. This is a country with GDP per capita of only $844 US, standing up on behalf of the voiceless, not a Western superpower, not the so-called champions of human rights, but a small country determined to seek justice for others who had hesitated. More recently, we witnessed the action by the initiative by South Africa. They brought a case against Israel for genocides in Palestine, in Gaza, before the International Court of Justice. South Africa's stand in this particular case illustrates the rising moral courage that has been manifested by the world majority, a courage that refused to be silent. Now, after 8 decades of this so-called Western-led global governance, we are witnessing a live stream genocide happening in Gaza, and we fail to do something about it, especially the West failed to do something about it. I was in Washington, in New York, very recently. We had a very, a constructive meeting with the Americans, and we made it very clear to them that the key is in your hand. You have the power to resolve this. No one else has leverage over Israel. But look, what has happened is that America has been part of this genocide. They have been supplying weapons, they have been encouraging it, they have not been able to stop this genocide from happening. I think it is time for us, the global majority, to take a leadership position. We are the largest stakeholders in the future of this planet. We are almost 90% of the global population. We are non-Western, non-white, non-colonials. We are no longer the spectators of global events. Across Latin America, Africa, Asia, we are stepping forward. We are acting independently from the West in the ways that were once unthinkable, reclaiming our voice and our agency. Consider the Belt and Road Initiative that was mooted by China a couple of years ago. When China first mooted the idea, presented it to the global community, the most powerful country in the world launched a campaign to dissuade a country like Malaysia and many others not to participate. But yet, 140 countries saw the future in this vision and chose to be part of it. And more recently, 124 countries voted in favor of the United Nations resolution demanding that Israel comply with international law, cease its settlement activities, and withdraw from the occupied territory. The United States voted against it. Many of its Western allies abstained. They chose silence in the face of justice. They were unwilling to stand up for international law and for Palestinian freedom. Now, given these dynamics, I think it's time for us to retire the term Global South. Since the dawn of the Western-dominated order, we have been subjected to many labels. We used to be called underdeveloped, then they categorize us into the first world, second world, and third world country. This reflects the potentials, this failed to reflect the true potentials of a country like Malaysia, for example, a country like Indonesia, a country like Philippines, for example. How can you lump these ASEAN countries into just a term of Global South when we are one of the most energized economy globally, when we are providing leaderships in terms of growth, in terms of technological innovation, in terms of energy transition, in terms of even globalization? I think it's time for us to abandon this categorization that no longer serves us. It is time that we embrace a new term. I do not know whether we should call ourselves a global majority, a world majority, whatever, I think this term is the new term is very important to serve as a reminder to the Western world that we are not minority. We do not want to be defined by the Western standards. We are a sovereign people. We are the center of our own lives. We are not Southern. We are not underdeveloped. We are not less civilized. And our values are not inferior to Western values. Now, please not be mistaken that this is not a rhetoric anti-West. We are not. Malaysia is a very friendly country. We have a policy of 1 million friends, enemies to none. But I think it is very important for the voice of the world majority to be respected and to be heard. Look at the recent events that is happening globally. That has amplified the voice of the world majority. In COP27 in 2022, the Barbados Prime Minister introduced the Bridgetown Initiative, a very transformative plan to reshape global finance and provide better support to nations vulnerable to climate change. In September 2022, at the G20 summit, the African Union secured a permanent seat, amplifying the voice of a vast region often silent. And when India, a member of Quad, was expected to isolate Russia, it instead deepened economic relations with Russia, showing our alliances are now based on our own interests, not the interests of the West. The Shanghai Cooperation Organization has continuously been invited by the chair of ASEAN and is regular in the ASEAN Summit. Today, BRIC countries are contributing to more than 35% of the global GDP, and its membership is growing dramatically, while G7 membership remains stagnant. It is time that the developed world stop treating the global majority as a mere playground for a zero-sum game of superpower competition. Now, I want to focus now to what can bring us together. I think number one, the thing that unites us is markets, our market. Together, we represent 90% of the global population. Think about that. Nearly 9 out of every 10 people on this planet are part of this global majority. That is a staggering force and unprecedented potential. We are not just market, we are the marketplace. When we unite, we hold in our hands the power to drive demand, to shape the flow of trade, to support each other's industries, and to build economies around the world. We don't have to depend on anyone else. So we have everything we need right here among ourselves to create an engine of prosperity that lifts us all. Second, it's our commitment to planetary health. Here is the hard truth. The world majority is not responsible for most of the carbon emissions that is warming our planet. The blame lies largely elsewhere with the developed world. But it is in our land, our communities, our people who suffers first and suffer the most. Rising sea waters, spreading deserts, storm of unprecedented fury. We live these consequences every day, ladies and gentlemen. And yet it is our community that are stepping up, innovating, leading the charge for climate change. We don't have to wait to be safe. We should lead the way. It is in our best interest to protect the planet. It is not for others to help us. It is really about helping our own survival. And the last one, I think we need new political project. We need modern cooperation. I think enough of this security partnership beyond geopolitical blocks. We need to look into how we can work together in new areas like artificial intelligence, for example. There is a huge gap between the developed and the developing worlds when it comes to artificial intelligence. But no one is actually helping the developing countries like Malaysia, for example, to develop our capacity when it comes to artificial intelligence. Let's work together to probably build a platform for education and bring education using technology to the last, to the least, to the most destitute of the global population. Let's look at how we can actually empower women, how we can actually bring technology to empower new kind of entrepreneurships. I think this is the kind of projects that we should really focus, and this is more meaningful than continue to engage with ourselves with the rhetorics of global politics.
Thanks for watching. If you found this video thought-provoking, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on more deep dives into global politics. Drop a comment below. What do you think? Is the world truly sick of America? Or is there still a path for the U.S. to regain its place as a respected global leader? Let's get a discussion going. See you next time.